people have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist.
So, what happens when Greg Gutfeld and Bill Maher join forces to take down The View? An utter decimation of words so harsh, even Whoopi's wig wanted to escape. These guys didn't just offer mild criticisms, they brought about a total blackout. One exposed the double standards, while the other ignited it with biting sarcasm. Thought daytime TV was a safe space? Guess again. This wasn't just spicy discussions, this was a disaster zone in dire need of mopping up. Strap in, there's no pausing this obliteration for commercials.
The way out there, that hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Because we see it anyway.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap, because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
Get ready. There's no pausing this showdown. Feast your eyes on the spectacle. A ceaseless merry-go-round of confusing banter, sharp retorts fueled by endless coffee, and drama masquerading as dialogue on your screen. It's where simplicity is lost and reason takes a holiday. Imagine placing a Nobel laureate among them. Within minutes, they'd be tearfully clutching their coffee, baffled at how truth turned into an unwelcome intruder. But brace yourself, as the plot thickens with the sudden entrance of two unexpected detractors who just burst through the doors. Welcome Greg Gutfeld and Bill Maher, proving once and for all that turmoil indeed brings the most unlikely together.
Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
Bill Maher is the perfect demonstration that turmoil can indeed bring the most unexpected partners together. One's a conservative enthusiast who seems as though he's fueled by cynical quips, while the other's a progressive non-believer convinced that excessive political correctness is a bigger issue than any virus. When they both set their sights on skewering The View, it's guaranteed to be an entertainment spectacle, akin to sharks deciding the vessel's doomed, then attacking it purely for amusement. Greg Gutfeld, always playing the clown on Fox News, has turned targeting The View into his own personal side gig, treating it as if it hasn't paid its dues. It's effectively become a tradition.
Maher calls her a 10. I mean, how dare she objectify a woman with a sexist rating system, but it's such a typical thing from a 1.5.
As if it's in debt to him. It's practically a tradition now. Panel drops a ridiculous comment. Greg catches it, rolls his eyes so fiercely it might shift the climate, then launches into a full-blown verbal smackdown on what might be damn TV's most delicate parade of egos. His problem is that the show acts like ego fest. His complaint is about the show acting like a forum for discussion, when it's actually just 5 people yelling together, each posing as the sole voice of sanity. Greg once quipped that watching The View feels like observing a team project where nobody has prepared. Is like observing a team assignment where nobody studied the material, yet each person claims they're correct. He teases Joy Behar's tendency to alter historical details midway through a conversation. Sunani Hostin's constant assertion of correctness simply because she proclaims it, and Whoopi's ever-changing position as the planet's most perplexing thinker.
Joy Behar gets racism after all. She's been black on Halloween. Yeah. But Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. But that is convenient, right? It's like one of my aunts dies every time Brian Kilmeade wants to hang out. Maybe Joy needs a full day to read her hate mail, and that's just from the rest of the cast.
And Whoopi's emerging role as the Globe's most baffled thinker, according to Greg, makes The View not just a talk show, but a therapy session where the therapist frequently storms out. As for the guests, they're merely fodder for sharpshooting. Gutfeld's underlying message behind the biting sarcasm and harsh quips is that the show has turned into a self-praising echo chamber where dissenting voices are either drowned out or labeled as a risk to democracy. You're not invited for a dialogue, you're called into a tone. And if you somehow make it past the disdainful eye rolls, the kind, and should you withstand the barrage of eye rolls, hushed murmurs, and exaggerated sighs, perhaps, just perhaps, you might earn yourself an unbroken half-sentence. Now, let's chat about Greg's critique of their so-called inclusive environment. It offers the coziness of a polar storm. When a conservative commentator steps onto the scene, it swiftly shifts from a dialogue to an ambush. Gutfeld names it accurately, performance activism. It's like a Broadway production, but with dimmer lights and more flamboyant eyebrows. Oh, and believe me, he doesn't let the production team off the hook either. Eyebrows raised even higher. Let's not overlook the fact that he doesn't pull punches on the production team either. Greg claims that the actual ringmaster of The View isn't Joy or Whoopi. It's the teleprompter operator silently begging for commercials to save them before a fresh wave of misguided rants goes mainstream. And the icing on the cake? Gutfeld's assertion that The View operates out of an alternate reality, a realm where facts are sifted through emotional mood rings and reasoning is gauged by decibel levels. For him, tuning into The View feels like stumbling upon a Twitter rant that's accidentally been made into a talk show. And truth be told, he's not far off the mark. Obviously, just the parts that you said, did I watch a whole episode of The View now? Oh man, can da that unless you're a stupid, but I have a job here. The thing, how can they call themselves progressives when they keep saying that nothing has progressed? Then it's on them, right? I just wish I could have what I would have watched if I would have been Joy Behar watching that and being like it totally made the right call. It was not an accident that they had him there on her day off when she, presented herself as expert on systemic racism as a white lady. Well, she had that one Halloween where she went Diana Ross and she felt she was treated differently. Also, in a bizarre twist, it turned out to be a gab fest, and truth be told, he's spot on. Just when it seemed like the burn couldn't get any fiercer, up steps Bill Maher, who's practically set up residence atop Mount Contrarian, hurling truth bombs at swanky soirees. While Gutfeld picks off hypocrisy from afar like a sharpshooter, Maher strolls right into the fray, flashing a smile and clutching a detonator. Maher has long been that liberal who Bill Maher has always unsettled other liberals with his staunch beliefs. He's all for marijuana, unrestricted speech, and bluntly calling out foolishness, regardless of which side it comes from. Thus, when Maher begins ridiculing The View, it's a clear sign they've crossed a line. His primary issue? The View's hypersensitivity to subtlety. Maher noted that on the show, any dissent is seen as a danger rather than a chance for discussion. If you even slightly pellity, it's more of a hazard than a chance. If you dare deviate just a tad from what the crowd thinks, bam, you're branded as troublesome, seen as a misogynist, or what he dubs unenlightened. Ma mentions it's less a chat, more a clinical verdict. Express yourself and you're promptly recommended a public mea culpa and a Twitter ousting. He's called them out on their theatrical indignation, their fixation on moral high ground, and their eerie knack for escalating every single issue, no matter how trivial, into an epic uproar.
Obviously, just the parts that you said. Did I watch a whole episode of The View?
No woman can do that unless you're stupid. But
I have a job.
Here's the thing. How can they call themselves progressives when they keep saying that nothing has progressed? Then it's on them.
Right. I just wish I could have, would have watched if I could, would have been Joy Behar watching that.
Yes.
And being like, I totally made the right call. It was not an accident that they had him there on her day off when she was, presented herself as the, expert on systemic racism as a white lady.
Well, she had that one Halloween where she went as Diana Ross and she felt she was treated differently.
Watching him critique The View is like observing a chaotic fire drill where all fingers point at you as the cause of the smoke. Maher's criticism doesn't just skim the surface, he dives deep. He lampoons the hosts for citing articles they haven't fully read, communicating in hashtags rather than complete sentences, and substituting loud emotions for genuine proof. While Gutfeld charges them with pretending to have diverse opinions, Maher accuses them of fabricating it altogether. Maher accuses them of completely pretending to have intellectual curiosity. His critiques are delivered with both a smirk and a grimace, as if he's lamenting how low the standards have fallen. When a show gets so formulaic that you can guess their responses before they even open their mouths, Maher begins to doubt whether it's still entertainment or simply tribal dress-up over coffee. And here's the twist. Gutfeld and Maher, who normally can't see eye to eye on anything, are in agreement on this. Two guys who'd argue over the shade of azure, even with swatches in hand, have miraculously found common ground. Their unified declaration? The View has morphed into a supposed comedy show where the humor falls flat and the punchlines fancy themselves as prophetic wisdom. They both see the program less like a debate and more like a theatrical display of politics, painting every problem as doomsday and each resolution like a prickly team embrace.
Well, I had a different question, but it struck me that in the first segment you used the term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything. And I know that you're...
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected.
Yeah.
So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term, because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words
and
migrate.
So why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great...
And each fix turns into a cozy yet pointed elbow jostle. They concur that the show penalizes solo thinkers. They're united in the idea that the crowd has been conditioned to applaud as if at a wrestling event. Both find it ridiculously true that expressing a contrary view on The View is riskier than appearing barefaced. Gutfeld dubs it doctrinal drama, while Maher describes it as a cult-like breakfast interrupted by ads. Their theater Maher labels it a cult-like brunch peppered with ads, and they're both on point. The hosts of The View absolutely loathe it. You could almost see steam billowing from their coffee cups when those clips surfaced online. The rare occasions they attempted a comeback, it was like trying to extinguish a grease fire using glitter, evasive, unclear, and completely off the mark. But the internet certainly didn't miss a thing, and completely overlooking the crux of it all. Yet the internet caught on where others failed. Audiences from different political stances witnessed an uncommon spectacle, bipartisan consensus. And it wasn't merely consensus, but also amusement. Folks chuckled because the jabs hit home, because the show, in its sanctimonious, self-praising splendor, had turned into the very entity it scorns the most, predictable, sermonizing, and excruciatingly disconnected. The aftermath was as foreseeable as it was uncomfortable.
About Whoopi Goldberg, because I got so many texts this week, because she attacked me the week before.
Sure.
So she was, everybody was like, oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma. First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no fucking thing as karma, okay? Get over that. Whoopi attacks me on a regular basis. She says stupid shit on a regular basis. They just happen to coincide. But
repercussions were just as expected and equally uncomfortable. Suddenly, the program went mute on the feedback. No insightful responses, no recognition, just forced grins and swiftly changing the subject, as though they hadn't just received a lavish 5-course roast accompanied by some fiery reality. It was like someone had laid a mirror on the table, yet no one dared to peer into it. And oh, the supreme irony. The very show that prides itself on fostering challenging dialogues couldn't cope with two off-the-cuff characters shaking things up. Gutfeld and Maher weren't stirring trouble. Outsiders precisely did that. Gutfeld and Maher didn't lob explosives. They slung truths doused in sarcasm and satire. Meanwhile, The View scrambled for cover, praying their viewer numbers wouldn't catch on. Yet, the audience picked up on it. Because when you get a Fox host and a liberal comedian together mocking your authenticity, it's more than just an attack. It's a loud, laughter-filled wake-up call. And let's not overlook the main takeaway. This wasn't merely about taking a show down a peg. It was about revealing the consequences when a platform ceases to listen and starts. Revealing the consequences when a platform ceases to be attentive and begins to sermonize. When it swaps inquisitiveness for interactions. When it overlooks the fact that dissent isn't a threat, it's the essence of democracy. Gutfeld and Maher might not ever break bread together. They might forever ridicule each other's political stances. But in that magnificent instant, they concurred on one crucial point. The View has gone off the rails, and that outdated script they are still adhering to. It should be tossed into the recycling bin, ideally right beside those cue cards they never required, since their opinions are all carbon copies of each other anyway.
I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill Maher, who has been the standard bearer for liberalism and in many ways leftism until the woke went bananas in this last decade, but for decades, that's what this guy has represented in America. I want you to note the tone they all talk with him. I want you to look at Sunny Hostin's body language and the way they look at him and everything else. Just because he is a lefty who hasn't gone completely bananas, here they are.
They've always got the same mindset. So if The View ever hopes to regain some credibility, perhaps it's crucial they welcome some real dissent, not just the token kind for optics. Because when the sharpest jabs come from your critics who are wittier, more incisive, and more reliable than your own hosts, then maybe, just maybe, it's time to dial down the noise and elevate the intellect. But don't get your hopes up, because the only thing more deafening than The View's self-applause is the dead silence when someone truly puts them in the hot seat. And if is the quiet that falls when someone really confronts it. And if you believe this was Gutfeld and Maher's final act of igniting the studio from afar, guess again. These guys might not be buddies, but they've definitely identified a mutual adversary. And it's safe to say, The View isn't going to be mailing them any holiday greetings. Because when the jesters begin to mock the carnival, you can tell the spectacle is in a bind. Here's how everything circles back in an utterly ironic and heartbreaking manner. When the jesters start bare, in the most eloquently heartbreaking fashion imaginable, when the jesters seem graver than the carnival, it's clear the big top is on the brink of collapse. This isn't about your everyday YouTubers or Twitter agitators. We're diving into Greg Gutfeld, whose career on Fox News thrives on his biting sarcasm, and Bill Maher, the crown prince of cynical liberals who used to lob scathing attacks at Republicans as if they were his morning caffeine fix. Yet, in an astonishing turn, these masters of dissent glanced at the spectacle and conceded, "Nope, this is over the top." Ponder over that for a moment.
Canada, apparently they're throwing tariffs on manatee meat and bovine semen, which means The View is very unhappy.
And was like, can you believe that? Just think about it.
You look tantalizing.
You know, I make fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered.
3 years, that's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue, I think, for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable.
There's this right-wing comic convinced that half of America has flipped its lid on being woke, and a fiery leftist, the original host of Politically Incorrect, way before cancel culture even knew what it was about. Both agree on the big issue. That daytime TV program, the one with coffee cups everywhere and a hyper vibe, it's no longer just criticism over there. It's a full-blown intervention. It hits you. The View has totally lost itself in a relentless echo of its own voice. The View has strayed so deeply into its self-reinforcing bubble that even those who typically align with its views are lashing out, tossing stones at its fragile barriers. These folks weren't adversaries from the start. Marzer once held common ideals with them. He was their guiding beacon of sarcasm. And Gutfeld? Well, he played their adversary, yes, but everyone has their breaking point. When they both confront you with the dismay of parents witnessing their child botch a group project they supervised, It's no longer just a playful mockery. The team task they handed us isn't just sarcastic anymore. It's an alert, and you can sense that. The View has successfully ousted anyone who either has a working irony detector or, heaven help us, any backbone. You're either in agreement with the fabricated indignation or you're disdainfully ignored. And the real kicker? The people who are pointing fingers at them, those men who frequently navigate through political danger zones, they actually come across as more logical, even-keeled, and, believe it or not, sane.
Who, by the way, I hope is still a friend, we can disagree with each other, should not be canceled or put off her show, as much as I totally disagree with her crazy statement. Free speech. She should be there. She shouldn't get a timeout.
Not every single thing has to be for everybody.
Right.
We can have platforms that have stuff on them that not everyone on that platform or who consumes stuff on that platform enjoys. And The View is a particularly weird place to do a cancellation.
It's called The View?
It's called The View. It's not called The Facts.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting that it's called, I mean, I don't think they meant this when Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
Well,
sound more reasonable, balanced, and, let's face it, normal. In today's reality, where common sense appears nearly extinct, it was up to a Fox host and a libertarian comedian to express the outcry that others were just shouting into the abyss. The View has turned into a cacophony of noise, desperately struggling to stay relevant, with insights as profound as an all-caps Reddit post. And here's the kicker. And here's the ultimate shocker. If The View is after true equilibrium, they should skip the standard array of agreeable women and typical visitors. Instead, bring in Greg and Bill as co-hosts. Just imagine placing them right next to the regulars and broadcasting it live, akin to an unending therapy session. Picture the audience witnessing the suspense build, brows furrow, and that air of moral high ground shatter like a dropped iPhone. Eyebrows flutter and that air of sanctimony shatters like a smartphone screen on first impact. Or here's a thought. Why not simplify things and give it a new name today? Might as well call it the sigh, since that's the collective reaction from the crowd now. They groan, they grimace, and they ponder when, oh when, someone will at last offer a voice of reason. As fate would have it, it was the jesters who stepped up, and unbelievably, they brought more clarity than the whole spectacle combined.